Stay tuned to listen to news and events from PatriotFB.com. Israel poised to strike. The Middle East is about to ignite in a holy war. Israel is now actively talking about striking Iran in the face of both the China to purchase the Federal Reserve. In essence, China has been slowly buying up the Federal Reserve for some time now. If you can call it a purchase, it's more like a negotiation over the assumed liabilities of both the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury. The Federal Reserve is the largest holder of U.S. debt at $2.1 trillion, while the China comes in at second at $1.3 trillion. Think of the United States government doing a debt consolidation of all its Treasury bonds because it can no longer pay its bills or its obligations. China, or the BRICS countries, and or a consortium of international interests, most likely organized through the IMF, will manage the U.S. debt through exchange rate increases and trade tariffs. The reality for America for the next decade or more will be price increase inflation of more than 30 to 50%, segmented by industry and region, until such a time that the debt or the negotiated margin of their debt is cleared from the books. Let's try this again and everything. So, oh my goodness. You know, my grandfather once said, I remember this is a story. My grandfather bought a pickup truck. And, this was when my father bought a station wagon years ago, Oldsmobile. It had all the bells and whistles. It had everything on it. Power this, power that, power whatever, My grandfather had a pickup truck. Inside this pickup truck, it had everything that was very basic, with the cranks and everything. You know what I'm talking about? Air conditioner. If you wanted air conditioning, it had the great 255, what they call the 255, which is two windows rolled down at 55 miles an hour. And I remember as a young lad, talking to my grandfather and asked him, said, Grandpa, why didn't you get all the bells and whistles? And he told me, he said, it's just more things that go wrong. And so we're in this new studio and everything. We moved over here, and I apologize for this. We will get it worked out. We didn't have the time to, when we moved into the studio over the weekend and stuff. We didn't have time to work all the issues out. But we're going to get them worked out eventually. Just hang in there with us. It's live. I mean, if you're recording this and stuff, you got to keep these. These ought to be real good. What they call air check tapes in the industry, so you can see, well, this is not how you do a radio show or a podcast. So once again, you're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show. We're going to reboot. We tried it again. We're going to see how this works. But you're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join me live every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time, and on the web 24/7 at www.themidnightpatriot.com, which will actually take you to our new site, which is Patriot FB. That's where we're hanging out these days. That is where we are hanging out. And, usually during the day you can reach me there. I'm usually online. If I'm not, just message me and I'll get to you and stuff as we do this. The other thing is we are going to be putting up our show clock. What that means is basically you're going to see our timings. We'll share those with you as far as, we're trying to come in the fold. Yes, we're converting. We're drinking the Kool-Aid and everything here at Patriot Radio. No, we're not. But I was advised by those that I seek the advice of that are a lot more knowledgeable in this industry than I am, and one of their criticisms of many, but one of their criticisms is that we need to start adopting a standard radio broadcasting show clock. And what that means is taking the breaks when we're supposed to and doing all of that, or they said I am going to destroy my voice. No one can talk 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. nonstop. So with that being said, if you'd like to join in the conversation, give us a call at 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. We'd love to hear from you. Stone Anthony's going to be joining us here at the top of the hour. And, we'll be talking about, getting updates from his campaign. And I'm sure we'll have some great conversations around that and everything. But until then, I do want to talk, the liberal. This is how bad this country morally has slidden into the abyss. Now, I will say this: I'm a libertarian. Let me give you the preference or the disclaimer here. I'm a libertarian by nature. So what does that mean? Well, it means that to me, the government should not be in your personal life. I agree with that 100%. Nor should anybody else, including myself. And so I'm not. How do I say this without what you do with your body and what you do? That's your business. If you want to pollute it with chemicals, if you want to smoke a doobie, if you want to do whatever you want, that is your prerogative. However, I draw the line at when your desire to control your body intervenes with my life. See, you get that? So like they say, your rights end at the end of your fist and begin at the tip of my nose, right? Or my rights. And so, this topic is one of these things, today obviously they're out there talking about Roe versus Wade. 55 million abortions since Roe versus Wade. Now, a lot of you, would say, well, Jeff, what does abortions have to do with you? Well, number one, my tax dollars, my money is going to fund those abortions, which I'm adamantly against. That's the first thing. The second thing is this. Out of those 55 million aborted babies, how many of them might have had the cure for cancer? Might have had the cure for AIDS? Might have grown up to be our next president? Might have contributed to society in ways in which we can never imagine? How many of those? 55 million. And so when a person chooses to abort a child, they are depriving society from a gift. They truly are. They're depriving the rest of us from possibly a gift. And that's where I have the issue with abortion. There are men and women, and don't believe the hype. There are men and women right now who are willing to adopt these children. The problem is because it's such the foster care system, that is such a bureaucracy of the government, that is so difficult to become foster parents. They say it's easy, it's not. And the liabilities and the responsibilities and all the issues that go along with it. But when we get back, 55 million, think about that, 55 million babies. How many of those could have been poets, lawyers, doctors, researchers, maybe presidents? Gotta ask yourself that. And the other thing too is I find it amazing that these politicians that are out there that are beating the drums about abortion and these abortion right activists and stuff, they don't tell you the truth. And when we get back from the break, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the founder, the the leading advocate of Planned Parenthood. We're going to talk about that. And, this is appalling. And if I said half the things they said, I would be, staked and pitted. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And so when we get back, we're going to, give you a little bit of insight about Margaret Saranger's view on the rest of the world. But you're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. You can join me live here every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time and on the web at www.patriotfb.com. Like I said at the top of the hour, we're going to be talking with Stone Anthony. He'll be calling in here, but we're going to take a break. And when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about Margaret Sanger, Sanger. We're going to discuss her legacy, her contribution to society as a whole, and her viewpoints on certain people.
Join us at www.patriotfb.com, a social network for patriots. Get involved. Support Stone Anthony for President. www.stoneanthony2016.com. Put a real American in the White House.
I had PTSD. Once I was back from Iraq, I was distant from everybody in my family. We had a reunion of our unit, and you'd hear these spouses say, "Is your husband doing that? My husband's doing that too. I thought it was just us." And really understanding that, hey, this is a common experience.
I learned more to listen to what he was saying, and that made it easier for me to understand where his pain was coming from.
Warriors should know that resources are available. Learn more at realwarriors.net.
You are listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join me live here. I don't know how much longer. I'm fixing to grab this stuff and just throw it out the window. No, I'm not. I kid. Little anger issues there, Jeff. Yeah. So, we're working through this. For some reason, this whole thing is not pulling the songs that it's supposed to, not playing the music and everything. It's almost like I just want to go back to the old cart system. I don't know. When I was doing radio broadcasting in college, that's right, I actually did this in college. I worked at a jazz radio station there at the campus. Didn't like that at all. And it was because I couldn't pronounce I have a hard time pronouncing names and everything. So I couldn't pronounce these jazz artists, and it just didn't. It was it was like the Yardbirds, the new Yardbirds. Well, that was going to go over like a leaded balloon, little inside rock history joke there. But I just had, loved the equipment, loved everything. But we had cart systems, and when you wanted to play an ad, you put a card in, you hit a button, and it works. Right? All this digital stuff is just got some problems. I'm more of a mechanical guy. Give me a good old wrench and a screwdriver. Let me go at it. But we'll persevere. We'll get through this. It's all part of the learning curve. This is going to make a great air check tape. This is going to be an outstanding air check tape that we're going to use and everything in the future. So, getting back right before we took the break, we were talking about, and I had to educate myself on this a little bit too. I learned about Planned Parenthood and and everything, and obviously you know about it, you know the battles. But, I want to share with you a little bit of insight, some of the things, and this is the part that just gets me. This is an excellent example of media controlling people. And let me tell you why I say this. Is that, just 4 weeks ago, Hollywood had a fundraiser, mind you, to fund abortions in the state of Texas. There were comedians and different Hollywood names and blah, empty shells, soulless shells, I should say, out there raising money so women can kill their unborn babies. Like I said, it's amazing that they'll come out and say, well, that's a personal decision between a woman and her doctor. Then why are you out raising money for it? Why are you getting involved? If it's a personal decision, it's between them and their doctor, right? But, no, it's an agenda. It's part of the eugenics program. And this is the thing. This is what we have to, let's just be honest. One of the things that we will never be accused of here at the Midnight Patriot is being politically correct. But let's just be honest. Let's be truthful with each other. The reason why, there's an uproar in this country about the abortions. There's no doubt about it. But the reason why there isn't a further uproar is because we just don't want those babies in our community. Right? Let's just be honest. Let's just talk frank. Let's just be blunt about it. Let's be truthful. Stop hiding behind your moral, your moral cape there. And let's just step out and talk about, the real reason why the Democrats and the libtards want abortion rights for women. Let's just be blunt about it. They don't want to have to pay for these kids, right? That's why. Bottom line is, that's why. If they were truly concerned about the care and the well-being of women and stuff, they would have stopped eroding family values in our schools and in our homes. They would allow parents to be parents and teach the kids right from wrong instead of teaching them about sex and how to have sex in public schools. They would let the parents do it. They would stop eroding. They would fund or allow churches to fund that type of education. But no, they don't. Every problem that we have, I can attribute every single problem in this country to a liberal. I really can. That's a pretty broad brush I'm painting there. But you know what? It applies. Really, it does. Our economic problems, uncontrolled social spending. Uncontrolled spending at, unfunded programs that these guys consistently want. Murder, well, the erosion of family values, the removal of God from school. It's amazing. We'll take God out of school, but we'll give it back to him in prison. Ever think about that? Lack of jobs. Their economic policies have suppressed the job market. The consistent handing out of services and programs without people having to earn them or be held accountable for them. I find it amazing if you're on unemployment, you have to put a list together of where you went, you're getting a job or whatever. But if you're on welfare, you ain't got to do jack. Seriously. It's amazing. The constant coddling of society. The constant coddling. But, getting back to the mother of the abortion movement, of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger. You know, I just want to let you guys know, she was a eugenics. What is eugenics? She was a population control person. She believed in it. Her speech, by any standard, would be considered appalling, even in today's time. But you don't ever hear about it. You know, let's make no bones about it. She was all for abortions because she didn't want to take care of the black babies. Oh, there you go. He said it. But that's the truth. Listen to her speech. March 1925 International Birth Control Gathering in New York City. The speaker warned of the menace posed by the black and yellow pearl. Can you imagine that? Who was it? Don Imus got on here, nappy-headed hoe. He said that, and he was booted off the air. Well, you got another commentator who basically said defecate in someone's mouth, and that's okay. Oh, no, there's no media bias. But the reality of it is that, yeah, Margaret Sanger wasn't a Nazi, wasn't part of the Klan, wasn't Knopf, Dolphus Knopf, member of Margaret Sanger, American Birth Control, ABCL, which, along with other groups, eventually become known as Planned Parenthood. You know, I'm just going to say this. We cut right to the chase. You need to look at the history of this woman. You need to look at the history of this woman, and you also need to look at at her associates, her beliefs, her writings. She was racist to the core. She was racist. So David Duke, there you go. He's all for Planned Parenthood because he does not want those black babies to pollute the gene pool. Is that not offensive to you? It is to me. But because it serves a purpose for the liberals, they're going to deny it. They're going to refuse it exists. It even exists. That's how disgusting this all is. We need to do our research. We definitely need to do more research, and you need to understand it. So when you talk to your friends and they're for Planned Parenthood, say, "Oh, by the way, that was formed by a racist, by a real racist." Go, Margaret Sanger. Go read some of her quotes. The black babies, the yellow baby. We don't need, or better yet, do your dumbest redneck impression. Well, that's kind of stereotypical, but because there's racists everywhere. Actually, I find more racism, believe it or not, up in the northern hemisphere than I do in the southern hemisphere. I really do, and I grew up in both. But the thing is that do your thing. We just don't need those black babies in our communities watering down our gene pool. Say that. Don't do it at work, you'll be in HR. But you not see the issue, the hypocrisy there. The fact that, the founder of Planned Parenthood can say that. The fact that they built an organization that gets government funding, mind you, based upon racist ideologies. It's amazing. If I started an organization for the betterment of white people or for the betterment of whatever, and I said that, got government funding for it, I'd be shut down overnight. I wouldn't even get it off the ground. But because it serves an agenda of the eugenicists out there, of the elite, and of the government. That's the other thing, too. You need to do your history. Republicans were anti-slavery. The Republican Party, the Conservative Party, was anti-discriminatory. It's your Dems that started the KKK. It's your liberals that started Planned Parenthood with an open agenda to kill black and yellow babies so they don't pollute the gene pool. But it's amazing. You'll never hear Dan Rather. You'll never hear mainstream media talk about that. No. So you got to wonder, are they in cahoots? Are they in cahoots? Do they believe that as well? That's why they refuse to expose it for what it is. Genocide of a race. Now, one more thing I want to add before we take a break here. I've always said this when it comes to abortion. If you allow abortion in your state, then how can you convict a person of killing an unborn child in other circumstances? I'm just saying. Maybe that needs to be the approach. Maybe that will get enough people up in arms about abortion in this country. Say, well, okay, you allow abortion and you say that a child is not a child until it's born, then we can't prosecute an individual for killing a child until it's born because it's not a child. See that? But the hypocrisy out there won't allow you to do that. No. Because typically what happens is that, unfortunately, the black and the yellow babies get killed in their mother's womb, before they're even, they're born. But the white babies and stuff, those are they're killed through a violent crime or something of that nature. So, of course, we got to prosecute. And typically the person that commits those crimes are usually of African-American, black, Hispanic race. So we got to convict those guys. We got to put them in prison. See the hypocrisy there? It's just a bad deal all around. But I just wanted to throw that out there. So we're going to take a break. When we get back from the break, Stone Anthony will be giving us a call. Now, we do want to talk about, once again, this lawless president is out there talking about how they're going to bypass Congress. They're going to bypass Congress on sanctions for Iran. But you're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. You can join me live every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time, or on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com, and also on our sister site, patriotfb.com. That's www.patriotfb.com.
Advertise to thousands of fellow patriots with Patriot FB Radio. Email advertise@patriotfb.com for more details. For all your prepping needs, visit our friends at mountainviewoffgridliving.com or call 208-615-6331. 208-615-6331.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
At this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care.
And we'll never have to pay St. Jude for anything, ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends. I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and visit stjude.org today.
I still think the one question that's been lost in this whole cover-up with this movie being the cause, there was a gun-running operation going on in Benghazi, leaving Libya, going to Turkey, and distributing arms.
We've seen an endless parade of distractions and phony scandals.
9/11 and evil's calling. Looks like we're on our own. Outside we hear them coming. For dead in Benghazi.
The incident's in response to this video, and it is in response not to United States policy, it is in response to a video, a film.
Do you believe that this was a terrorist attack?
It was a crude and disgusting video. Sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world.
Bring in, as promised, Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker Michael Moore. Michael, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Rachel Maddow. Good evening, Rachel.
Good evening, Keith.
Join us at www.patriotfb.com, a social network for patriots. Get involved. Get involved. Support Stone Anthony for president. www.stoneanthony2016.com. Put a real American in the White House.
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us live every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're getting this thing worked out. It's getting a little bit better. We're on the fly programming and everything. So I do apologize. Stone Anthony will be with us here at the top of the hour, but I see that we have a caller. So let's just go right to the caller and everything. Hey, caller, how are you? Welcome to the show. Caller, there you go. Hey, there, much better. It'd help if I turn the sound up a little bit. We can, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I was a little bit twisted there. Okay, I'm here.
Yeah, no, sorry.
My name is Thomas Robert Lackenberry Stewart from the Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio program on RBN.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome to the show, my friend.
How are you doing?
My gosh, we moved the studio over. Well, we moved the studio over to a new location over the weekend, and because of that, we also have new equipment that we're using that we've never used before, and on top of that, we have new software that we use that manages the show. So let me go. So that's a perfect storm for a lot of mess up, a lot of tape and everything. But
are you kidding? It's normal going for a little bit of craziness on a regular show.
It is
without having to go through all that.
Yeah, no, it's we'll get it worked out. Our listeners will just have to bear with us and stuff. But come on, that's part of being live and everything. And it is kind of, you got to
roll
laugh
with the punches, never a dull moment.
It's right, absolutely. So your show, tell me a little bit about your show. And
I like I said, my name is Thomas Robert Lackenberry Stewart. I am on the Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio program on RBN, and my co-host is Mr. Bruce Ray Riggs. We're both non-bar association constitutional attorneys. My father was a judge, and my co-host, his father was a prosecutor, and my father, when he was towards the latter part of his career, he was also a Knights of Columbus and a Freemason, and he got to a certain level, and he came home one night and pretty perplexed, that he had learned some things that greatly disturbed him. And one of those things was that in 1867, the 14th Amendment was ratified through an act of violence and an overthrow of the government. The Union Army came into the chambers and ejected 11 states delegates at the point of rifles, and that was that. Now, there's been a lot of controversy over that. Some people said, well, that was the southern states, and it was because they seceded from the nation and all that. And I urge people to really check their history, because last I checked it, New Jersey was not one of those southern states, and they were ejected as well. Mm-hmm. So anyway, our research is based on that and the disappearance of the original 13th Amendment, which people look back to the War of 1812. British came in and burnt down our Library of Congress and basically our National Archives at the point, the White House. They managed to successfully, through once again an infiltration, get rid of the original 13th Amendment that made any foreign association or membership or any sort of accreditation. It made it so that you could not hold any kind of public office, and you could not, you would lose your citizenship. Now, no problem with having lawyers, but a lot of lawyers today, my brother even, my father, had no idea what the bar association really was, what it represented. Mm-hmm. And I think that the courts that we have today are not the courts that our founders intended. The Constitution. They're technically a form of a tribunal, an administrative law courts, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've gone so wrong. If you look at Obamacare and a lot of these other federal bureaucracies, these huge agencies that are out of control, like DHS being one right off the top there. IRS, another one. All these are propped up on the 14th Amendment.
Exactly.
So what we're trying to do is put together some information and get it out to the public.
Sure. And and you raise a good point. I was just reading today, the EPA went into the state of Wyoming and took over 1 million acres. They basically went in the state of Wyoming and they redrew this state line. The EPA. It just happened today.
Well, that's nice for them. I'm glad that they can play with pencils and paper, and they think that maybe their mom didn't give them enough crayons when they were kids, and maybe they should go back to Washington and play with them a little bit, because they have no authority in the states.
But see, and that's the thing, is I think what has happened is our federal government, and obviously you being a lawyer, you know this a lot better than I would. I just see it from just a normal person. But this federal government, there's this thing that they always talk about, in case law where you have precedent. And we have allowed this government to get away with so much. I actually think that they just feel that they can do whatever, because the precedent is that we will just go back watching our Super Bowl or watching American Idol, and the next morning Britt Hume will get on and he'll tell us what our new laws are for the day. And it's just
you made a good point in that that the public have been they basically are in some form of apathy, that they don't engage. But here is where the rub, and it is true that we have kind of shirked from our responsibilities. However, myself, as a good example of this, is I used to be somewhat of a bit brainwashed myself, and it wasn't until I unplugged from the television set and started really researching, and I let myself go into areas where a lot of people would consider tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theories. But what I actually end up coming away with was an incredible degree of information that was true. Now, you have to sift through a lot of the malarkey. Mm-hmm. There is quite a bit. There's quite a bit of disinformation. But here is the sad fact. 90% of that through several different countries and basically working for the same umbrella of this global organization. First, it was the bankers way back, the British. Like I said, in 1812, they sent the army in to destroy our documents, and then through the 14th Amendment, that subversion. I mean, George Washington wrote to John Jay before we even got started that he had feared that they had been infiltrated to the highest order. Right? I submit that with all of the research that I've done, and I'm considering coming up with a separate webpage than the one that we have for this information, because you can just have too much information on one site and lose sight, for lack of a better term, lose sight of some focus. But the truth of the matter is that, and I have a video on YouTube, it's called the Socialist, or I believe it's either Socialist or Communist Infiltration of America, where a KGB agent is interviewed and he outlines a 40-year plan and infiltrated by the Soviet communist government. And he said that a very small fraction of their budget went to paying the spy operations, like the James Bond stuff. He says it makes for great movies. He said, but the majority of their money was spent doing absolute infiltration of America, where they had entire towns and cities in Russia that were the borders of which were closed by the military, and inside these towns these people were raised just like American citizens, speaking fluent English, and when they were ready, they were sent across the seas, and their job was to infiltrate local governments first, because they were going to work their way up into the ranks. And they started with, local county and then state governments, Board of Education. Board of Education was the biggest target, because once they got a hold of the Federal Board of Education, they managed to develop curriculum that was, and they basically outlined, that they were going to promote absolute degeneration of all morality, promote homosexuality, just all of these. You can see these things emerging, and this KGB agent says there's a four-step process, one of which is, I think the third step is demoralization, where you can basically take an average American and take him by the hand and take him to the camps, the FEMA camps, and show him the barbed wire pointed in, and show him the documentation, all of our rights that we still don't have, and they don't exist. And that's a fact that I try and make. I challenge anybody to try and argue with me that our constitutional republic was put to sleep on. We do not have constitutional rights these days, and I can prove that. But,
no, you're absolutely.
This last stage was demoralization, and unfortunately, I see. And he said, if you unplug the bananas from your ears and you take the blinders from your eyes, you can see this so plain as day. John Welch outlined it in 1957 speech. If you go to YouTube and type in John Welch, amazing speech. I tell you what, that man, he was a John Birch Society founder, and he was spot on for everything he said back then.
Yeah, I mean it is amazing, and I see collegiate, college educated, individual. I talk to them on a daily basis, and you give them the information, and you show them the information, and you can march them right up to the gate, and you, like you said, you can show them the barbed wire, how it's pointed in, and they. What's amazing is that they wake up for about 5 minutes, and then they're talking about American Idol, or they're talking about whatever show, and it's just and that's the way it is.
Or Miley Cyrus with her tongue hanging out.
Yeah, right. Miley Cyrus with her tongue hanging, or whatever. We've completely. I know. So how do we listen to your show, my friend? Where do we go?
You can go to Resurrect the Republic, RESURRECT. It's 2 R's. I always make that mistake myself. ResurrectTheRepublic.com. And if you open up or if you look to the right of the page, you'll see the Listen Live button.
Sure.
And you can, at 11 o'clock, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m., Monday through Friday on Eastern Time, I will be on RBN. We also have on that page, you can also see we have a tab that says Show's Own Social Network. We have just a core group of a few friends.
Sure.
There's maybe about 40 of us or whatever. Actually, I started doing what it looks like what you did so much better. I don't know. You have like a really cool site with that it looks just like Facebook operates so nicely. Actually, I wanted to kind of talk to you about that.
Well, no,
if we could get it on that somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got one. I got one better for you. We are putting the whole premise of Patriot FB obviously is a social network. Plus, we are putting together other podcasters. We share. I mean, this is not for us. This is not a only us kind of scenario. I mean, we're all about getting the word out. And we are looking for other shows to feature, and we would love to. I can already tell you, we would love to have your show on the 11 o'clock. Now, I will. We have, from a technology standpoint, I don't know what you're paying for your bandwidth and all of that, but we, as a benefit, we cover all your bandwidth. All you do is you just hook into our encoder. And then you're live worldwide at 128K, and I can.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, with RBN, I of course, it's a labor of love. I don't get paid, but I don't have to pay. But that sounds like a very, very, very good plan, and I'm all for that.
Yeah, well,
I'm about getting the message out.
It is, and we
really have some great information. I would love to do that.
Yeah, no, we would love, and the other thing too is I know that you said you're not a bar, you're not on the bar or anything, but we always need experts, and
I have morals.
Yeah, morals.
I'm sorry.
No, I get you, man. You only have to be in the legals. You only have to go up there. I was watching a show, and we got to get off here because Stone's going to be coming on in a little bit. I got catch up with him. But I was watching a show last night called Gideon's War, and it talks about the public defenders. In the legal, it was a documentary, and it was, I was one of these. I am one of these people. You're a criminal, go to prison. Who I don't care what happens to you. But then I was, that documentary showed me, even in the criminal prosecution part, how it is so rigged. And it is. It's rigged. Sir. It's rigged towards the rich, and these public defenders who only get $30,000 a year in a small thing. But then, of course, the ADs and stuff, they're getting, they have unlimited.
That's making your bones price.
Yeah,
that's to make your bones price.
Exactly,
so if you get past that, and you and they all do it. I mean, a lot of them do it. That's the make your bones process, where they weed out the people that do not work well with them, and the ones that do play ball nicely move way up.
Yeah,
right into that. And my father told me this.
Yeah, if
you play ball,
yep,
and you conform to their club, which is almost like a mafia.
Yeah,
it really is. I can when we have more time sometime, I'll outline it for you, and you'll think that basically going to court, you might as well go in to see Bruno.
Yeah, well, no, it's funny because I a short, this is personal experience. I was in a legal I unfortunately went through a divorce, and years ago, and I was talking to a buddy of mine. He said, "Oh, by the way," he said, "Your divorce attorney is going to act like he's all for you and stuff." He goes, "The deal's already been made out. They already know how much money you make. They already know what you can sustain." And it was funny. This is another attorney that was telling me that he didn't practice family law, and he said, "I'm just going to let you know that the opposing counsel has already struck a deal. They already know what your maximum that you're going to pay or what you can pay, and they're going to push it right up to that point." And I was like, "No, this guy's he's a real pit bull." And Sure enough.
Yeah.
When I went back, and my buddy was like, this is a divorce that lasted 3 years. We went through it for 3 years. And he said, what you need to do is just tell your attorney that it was sad, but it was true. He said, tell your attorney that you just can't do it anymore. You can't pay anymore. You have no more money. You can't. You're done. You just can't do it.
Yep.
And he goes, go do that. And I did that, and a week later, I had the paper signed. A week later, and it's just crazy.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, I would love to talk. So, obviously, we will link to your show. If you can, send me all of your information, Jeff at themidnightpatriot.com, and I will. And obviously, my cell phone number. So, I'd love to talk to you tomorrow when you got time and stuff, and we can arrange. Yeah, we'll get you on the network. Absolutely.
Give me a call, or I'll give you a call and leave my number.
Sure.
And just call me whenever you're available. I'm at my desk most of the time if my boots aren't on the ground in Washington or in the National Archives or at the Cato Institute. I will be at my desk.
Yep.
Or on my Harley.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I'm the same way. I live. It's funny. I moved the studio home and everything, so I can spend more time. So I'm not commuting back and forth to go in to do the show. But now the problem is that my studio's set up in such a way.
Where are you? Where are you at?
We're actually right outside of Chicago, just north of Chicago, right across the border in the great state of Wisconsin. So,
right.
But yeah, I spent a lot of time down in
Wisconsin cheese.
It is cheese
out there.
We do cheese and beer. That's our livelihood around here. So, but hey, thanks for calling, and we'll get a plug out there for your show, and hopefully we'll get you on Patriot FB.
It's been my pleasure.
Oh, not a problem. Thanks for calling in, my friend.
All right, God bless you.
Yep, God bless you too. Wow, see, that's what it's all about. And I do apologize. Once again, Stone's like, Stone. He's gonna feel like the redheaded stepchild and stuff. But no, it's all right. Stone gets it. He understands it. Great information and, great. And I'll get a link out there for all of you guys out there listening. Try to get them on. I mean, these are, once again, great show that they produce. I've actually heard a bit of it the other day and, was like, wow. And everything, these are experts. These are non-practicing or bar attorneys, but they are attorneys, went through the legal system, they understand, and what better group of guys or experts to have, as far as a source of information. So, with that, I know that Stone actually called in during that interview. He'll be calling back here in a little bit, but I did want to cover a few things before we get Stone on and everything. I want to talk about this White House. The White House is now threatening. We're talking about the Iran, and the White House is now saying, we heard the classic clip. I mean, this president, it's amazing. It's amazing the things that he says and he does. And I think it's all because, we talked about it just in that last segment, about the hubris of this administration and the fact that we're asleep, and the precedent that's continually set by the government and by the people, the lack of the people getting involved in their government. We're asleep at the wheel. And so there's this legal term called precedent. So if a case or if a process is done and there is no objection to that and no one complains and there's no one up in arms, they're just going to continually do it again and again and again and again. And you heard the president last week say, well, I've got a pen and I got a phone. I don't know what the deal with the phone is, but I got the pen, and I'll just bypass Congress. And we allow them to do that. There was no march on Washington. There was no, of course the media is not going to jump all over that. They're not going to do that. But once again, we set a precedent, and they know that we're asleep. They know that they can show us, Kim Kardashian's backside or whatever they're going to show us that day to distract us like the little kids that we are. You know, we might have big homes and nice cars and all of these things, but we're children. We are children when it comes to this government and what they're doing. You know, and unfortunately, our parents are abusive. We need to wake up. There is no state agency we can go to. It's us. And I use acknowledge because maybe it will sink in. You know, if I could throw the kitchen sink at you, I would do that too. You got to understand, we are in an abusive relationship with our government. Our government views us as cattle, as their property. They view the people, and now they're going after the states because they have the people, they have the cattle under control. Now they're going after the ranchers, the states. Just today, the EPA announced they are redrawing this great state of Wyoming's boundaries. They are eliminating well over 1 million acres of Wyoming. Yes, the EPA. So if the EPA can come in and redistrict or redraw your state, who's to say that they can't do that to another state? Who's to say that when a state starts turning red, that they can't bring in a neighboring state which is more blue? They can redistrict it and use environmental laws to do that. And we're going to allow it to happen because we're going to be complacent. We're going to be worrying about who's going to win the Super Bowl next week. Or, like I said, Kim Kardashian or Miley Cyrus with their tongue hanging out. We're setting a precedent here. Our failure to act is setting a precedent, and it gives more power to this administration. And I know this is Stone. Hey, Stone, how are you, buddy?
Doing good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. Sorry, you always get bumped like that, and I do apologize.
Yeah, why would you take a call at 10:59? I didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, because I knew this individual and their show and everything, and it was one of those things where I've been wanting to talk to him for a while. But what's really amazing is that I, during the week I will get zero calls, and for some reason Tuesday night, and you know what I think it is? I think it's you, and let me tell you why I think it's you. Because you have such a huge following that when you post people that you're going to be on the show, people that have never heard of us before, people that have never seen it, they come out and they see us, and then they see what we're about. And I believe that's why we get the calls and then obviously we couldn't take any calls earlier in the night because we had so many issues. so many issues.
Hey, let me call you back on the other line. This one's kind of staticky.
Is it staticky? Okay. Yeah. All right, sure. So Stone's going to give us a call back, but we are we're working through our technical issues, as you hear live, but we'll get through there. But, once again, the White House got a pen, got a phone. Much better. The White House is, we're talking about how President, the President of the United States basically said he's going to bypass Congress on the Iran deal. He's just going to, forget it. Constitution, what's that? I got a phone. I got an Obama phone. I got a pen.
So let me just remind everybody that we elected this man not only once.
Yes, we did.
But twice. We, as a nation, are getting exactly what we asked for.
We did. We got the government we voted.
Not enough of us, because not enough of us got our asses out of bed on Election Day and went to the polling places and voted.
Yep. I agree.
Okay? So, all this complaining, all this impeachment talk, all this let's storm Washington, D.C. It's all Monday morning quarterback, and it's all sour milk.
Yeah.
You know, buck it up, stick it out.
Yeah.
November 8th, 2016. Don't make the same damn mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. You got to go. And I'm going to tell you this. Part of that process is I can tell you, I can name 8 friends that I know did not vote last time. I can promise you 1 or 2 things.
116 million people voted, Jeff.
I know. Out of 313 million. Yep, 13 million. Well, I can tell you this, though. 1 or 2 things are going to happen this next voting cycle. They are either going to vote or they are not going to be my friends anymore. I'm serious. I hate to say it.
I hear you.
And I'm just going to say, look, if you don't care enough to get off your, like you said, get off your ass, and let's just be blunt about. Oh, by the way, I disconnected the dump button. So yeah, that sound that I'm hitting is we no longer dump the calls here. So our dump, you can speak your mind. But the thing is, if you don't get off your ass and, like you said, go vote and participate in this process, in this government, I don't want to be. I don't have time for you. I don't have time to hear about your whining. I don't have time to hear about your kids and all the problems that they're having at school because of Common Core. I don't have time to hear about how your taxes have gone up. I don't have time. If you're not going to participate, then I don't have time to listen to you either.
Right.
So
the bottom line here is that everything that's happening to this nation, I mean, it's not just Barack Hussein Obama.
Yep.
Okay? It happened during George Bush. It happened during Bill Clinton. It happened during George Bush Sr., Reagan, Carter, Ford, Johnson, right on down the line.
Yep.
For the last 50, 60 years, we have allowed our country to decline to the point where we are today, where our children are stupid.
Yes. Oh.
Grown-ups don't give a shit anymore.
Yep.
And we are getting exactly what we asked for.
Yeah.
So, I'm watching this Operation Spring thing here, and I did some reading on it, this type of thing, because people are asking me to participate in this type of thing, and I'm looking at it, and they're, they want to overthrow the government peacefully, of course. They want to arrest, our politicians. I get that. I guess I appreciate that. And then I'm looking at the people that they want to install back in to government, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, no. So people, stop asking me to support this Operation Spring thing. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So the Constitution is clear. The only tool in our toolbox right now that is constitutionally guaranteed is the ballot box.
Yeah.
You got November 2014, November 2015, and November 2016.
Well,
you got the next 3 years.
Yep.
And Jeff, I mean, you're going to be on the radio, of course, and you're going to be watching this stuff, and you're going to be reporting it. Look at the total number of votes.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I know it's depressing. I mean, I've always said that, though. I mean, I've watched it, and we talk about this. This is the part that gets me, is that we talk about when we freed the Afghanis, in Afghanistan, and they did their vote. They had like 80% turnout. 80% turnout. In this, and we're not talking like, for them to go vote, they have to travel in some areas half a day to get there. Across desert, train. And they had 80% turnout. And here in the United States, we'll be lucky if we have 40%. And, they'll talk about the news, oh, it's a high turnout thing, and you had 40% of the people. No.
Okay.
We got to figure out how.
I mean, all right. So you've got King Obama. He's saying that he's just going to go it alone, and and I suppose if no one stops him, in other words, no one stops him that's in a position to stop him.
Yeah.
If no one stops him, then he's going to do what it is that he's going to do.
Oh.
But keep in mind, folks, it only lasts until he's out of office. Okay, if it's not a law, Okay? If it's just an administrative action, it ends when his presidency ends.
Well,
okay?
That's the problem. I mean, that's the concern that we have, is that he's entering into treaty. You know, he still has the Senate, and he's entering into these treaties under the Senate. The Dems still control the Senate, and he can do that all day long. And technically, the treaties are binding law, and that's what that's what he's doing. Is he's backdooring these policies through treaties and
do I need to read from the Constitution right now that no treaty shall be, ratified unless it's done by Congress? So, hello?
Well, that's the Senate, though. I mean, the Senate is the ones that ratify the treaties. And then the House, hold on, the second part of that, which is the way it is the House is actually the one that funds it, if there's funding involved. So, the Senate, that's what I'm saying. Treaties are actually ratified by Congress, or by, you're right, Congress, but it's the House or the Senate that ratifies a treaty with a foreign nation.
Both houses of Congress. Both houses of Congress. That doesn't mean the Senate or the House of Representatives. It means both houses of Congress, which is the Senate and the House of Representatives. It doesn't say the Senate has the option to do that or can do that. It doesn't say that the House of Representatives can. It doesn't matter. Bottom line, folks, the man is not going anywhere. And if this particular Congress sits back idly and does nothing, and as far as, the impeachment, this type of thing, do you guys understand that every one of those members of Congress, to include the Senate, they're all millionaires?
Oh, yeah.
They've all gotten fat off of everything that's going on. Why on earth would they upset the candy cart?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah.
Why is it that tomorrow is Wednesday and everyone that I know and everybody in this country is not at their congressman or senator's office raising holy hell?
Yeah.
Why is it that our money is being spent for welfare so these people can have EBT cards so that they can get cash and buy marijuana with it?
Yeah. I know.
Insanity is all around you. We don't need to go another week or 2 years or 3 years or 10 years to know that something's not white in the rice, folks.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, it's.
But once again, Jeff, at the ballot box this November, people need to make their choices.
Yeah.
Take a look at the Libertarian candidates. Take a look at the frickin' Green Party candidates and the Constitutionalists and the American Citizen Party. Stop electing these ass bags. If they're a Democrat or a Republican, folks, those are the people that have got us into this position.
Yep.
It wasn't the Libertarians or the Independents or the Green Party or the Constitutionalists. It was these ass bag Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah. No,
Stop electing them.
Yep. No, I agree with you. No.
I mean, it's as simple as that. So every time I read a post on Facebook or on the Internet or read a news article, I mean, they're ripping this poor woman's ass apart in Texas who's running for governor. I don't know what her name is. It escapes me right now. Because she made a mistake. She said she was 19 when she was really 20. I mean, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Okay? This is the pettiness that they're doing to destroy good people.
Well, and that's the thing, is that's part of the play, though. That is part of the play, is the fact that, when you deal
Wendy Davis, by the way.
Yeah. Lenny Davis. When you deal with narcissists, they don't care what people say about them. All they care about is the end game, and the end game is advancing their agenda and their power and their wealth, and be damned with everybody else. And when you deal with real people who really care what's going on in the world and everything like that, we tend to want to avoid conflict. And thus, when bad things are being said about you or whatever, you tend to, cower or whatever. I'm at the point now where, I'm all in. So there you go. There's the first word. I'm all in, and I'm just going to say, I don't care. You say whatever you want to say about me. I'm going to go down fighting. I'm going to go down fighting for this republic. I'm going to go down, and it's already starting. It already is starting. But like I said, but you can't cower from that. You can't, because that's their game plan. They're not going to sit there and fight you on principle. They're going to fight you on slander. They're going to slander you, and they're going to.
But Jeff, but we, the people that are listening to this show, the 1.2 billion people on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I guess we don't really care about the 1.2 billion people, but the 313 million Americans that are in this country, stop voting in these people. How is it possible that people have already decided that Hillary Clinton is our salvation? What is wrong with these people?
Well,
what is wrong with these people?
Because they're how do you
I know what's wrong with these people.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that the patriots of this country, of this nation, have got to get their asses out of bed on November 8, 2016 to elect a new president.
Yeah.
And it cannot be from the establishment.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It cannot be.
I agree. And it's funny, though, because, I was listening to some of the supporters of Barack Obama. And when he first got elected, everybody's like, we're going to get this, we're going to get that, we're going to get this, this. And now they're all disillusioned. and they're all sitting there going, he really didn't do he didn't do what he said he was going to do. But it's amazing. They're, like I said, they're children because, now you got Hillary Clinton. Now you're seeing it gear up for her. Oh, she's going to do this, or she's going to do that, or she's going to do this, or she's going to do. She's not going to do anything, but she's going to improve her social standing. That's what Hillary Clinton's all about. It was very well exposed when she was working on the Nixon prosecution. How it's amazing. I mean, you're dealing with a woman who for all practical purposes was disbarred. And if the lead prosecution for the Nixon, her boss came out and exposed her, but back then they had this thing called professional courtesy, that they didn't expose her for the twit that she was. She would never hold a law office or law license in the United States, because the things that she did were not only morally wrong, but they were criminally under oath. Under oath, she falsified documents, and it's just unbelievable. And a criminal prosecution, mind you.
Okay. As I watch, Patriot FB, and I watch, the Patriot sites and this type of thing, and the names that are being thrown around and this type of stuff is, it's from a Patriot movement or from a Patriot side of things. I'm talking about maybe not necessarily the mainstream Democrats or Republicans. They're scrambling to try to figure out who they're going to put up against Hillary Clinton, from a conservative Republican side.
Yeah.
And folks, if you're listening, the Republicans need to be supporting Stone Anthony. The conservative movement needs to be supporting Stone Anthony. I shouldn't be supporting them.
Yeah.
Okay? They are just as guilty for where we're at today as the Democrats.
I agree. I totally agree.
Ted Cruz's name one more time, or Mike Lee, or Alan West, or any of these other airbags.
Yeah.
It infuriates me.
Yeah, you don't.
Hillary Clinton. If you Patriots are not, if the Patriots are listening to this interview right now, or this show right now, if they don't start deciding right now, and I don't know what the date is, I think it's the 21st or the 22nd, depending on where you're at. If you don't decide right now where you stand on this nation as far as gaining it back and retaking it, if you don't decide now who it is that you're going to support, then we've lost this thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Because their machine is more powerful than anything that you could ever do, or anything that I could ever do.
Absolutely.
We have got to focus on what is going to take to get our nation back. And the only thing that we are guaranteed that we can do right now, and that is at the ballot box. Come this November 2014, I swear to God, if 100 million patriots aren't out there voting, and when I say out there voting, I don't mean voting for a Democrat or Republican. Take a look at the Libertarian candidates. Look at the Constitutionalist candidates in the Green Party. These people may not necessarily be the most known or have achieved the most things in life, and they may not be billionaires, but they're patriots. They're citizen statesmen that just want to do good, that just want to return our nation back to we the people.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with you. I there was a time in my naivety that where I was looking like Ted Cruz and the Paul Ryan and all those within the conservative party, but now I don't even. You're absolutely correct. I don't even. Whatever. I just look at these guys.
There's a website out there that says elect Sarah Palin to whatever job she wants.com or something like that. Now keep in mind, I'm a staunch Sarah Palin fan.
Yeah.
I think she would be a great politician. Unfortunately, I think she got into bed with the wrong people, and now she's all muddied up, and there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
But if and when I'm, elected president, I will bring her in because she has a true heart. Okay? I don't think she's a great leader, not at this stage of the game, but I think that she has something to bring to the table. But, folks, stop electing Democrats and stop electing Republicans. They have been stealing our nation from us for the last 115, 120 years.
Yeah.
Why would you keep doing that?
Yeah. I mean, no, I agree.
The message is simple, Jeff. Stop voting Democrat and stop voting Republican. What you could do, Jeff, you could start promoting, libertarian candidates, constitutionalists, American Citizen Party candidates like you're doing me and this type of thing.
Yep.
This November, dude, it's only 8-9 months away.
Yeah.
Why don't we make an effort now to try to bring those candidates to the forefront to give people options? Because if you send to Congress the same asshole Democrat and Republicans that aren't going to impeach this son of a bitch, are not going to stop him from doing what he's doing, then you're guilty of treason just like they are.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's your duty.
I agree. No, I agree. And we are trying to reach out to different candidates and everything. Now, I will tell you one of the show programming that we are going to be adding here on top of all the other things we got to do is we are going to have LaRouche PAC. We are going to be doing their refeed, their weekly call-ins and getting their candidates out here. And, they're huge on infrastructure programs. They're huge on of course, the reinstatement of Glass-Steagall and the breaking up of the British-controlled banking system here in the United States. So we are definitely going to start having them on the show on a weekly basis, or refeed a lot of their shows. And
are they supporting Democrat and Republican candidates?
No, absolutely. Are you kidding me? LaRouche PAC? No. They're I don't want to.
Libertarian.
They have a libertarian bent to them. I don't want to say. I don't want. Look, this is the thing. I don't want to even get into this thing. Well, are you libertarian? Are you this or that? What do you believe in? Do you believe in that our country's in the crapper? Do you believe that we need to start putting statesmen back in there? Do you believe we need to get the banking elite and the power, under control? Do you believe that we need to get back to the Constitution as it was written by our forefathers? That's what I'm asking you. Whatever that looks like, or whatever title you want to give it, I can care less. I really can. I'm looking at you, the individual, and what do you believe in, and whatever title you want to give yourself, it is. But I will tell you this: in the Republican and Democratic Party, to your point, they have been taught, they have been told, they believe in do whatever you got to do to get in power, lie, cheat, steal, whatever you got to do to get into power. And that's why they can come and tell me, a Republican, or I'm not even going to listen to a libtard, but a Republican come and tell me that he believes in everything that I believe in, and I'm still not going to vote for him just because I know his party. I know his party, and I know who controls him and who pulls the thing, and that's what it's all about. These guys, look, I look at the congressmen, I look at the senators, and I'm looking, and I haven't yet found one, but I'm looking for one that actually goes to Washington and is in Washington for the 2 years. We'll give them 2 years, and still believe in their core values. They've all changed. I've yet to find one congressman, one senator, one member of House that hasn't changed their core values.
Okay, it's just not going to happen.
Exactly.
And all of that, the LaRouche PAC and all that stuff. That's fantastic. I think that get behind something and stick with it. And that's kind of my point. But I'm trying to, as pointedly as I possibly can. I'm not even on Patriot FB right now, but I'm sure there's a chat going on. But I'm looking down through there, and as I see, Ted Cruz's name and Hillary Clinton's name and this type of thing, I'm like, wow. Or Chris Christie.
Yeah.
Do you really think that these people give a shit about you and what's happening with this nation?
They can care less.
Seriously?
The only reason Christie did his press conference last week is because he knew he was in trouble.
Right.
Yeah, I know people that know Christie, and they say he is an arrogant, and I'll just say SOB. I will just stop it, and that's the way he is.
There's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with a politician having a little bit of arrogance, some confidence.
Well, he's
but the problem that
vindictive.
we've got here is if the American citizens are not at the core of the decisions being made in our government, then we've got a problem.
Yeah.
And the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are not there for the people any longer.
Oh, I think it doesn't take you long. I mean, I talk about this all the time. If you vote Republican, you're a slave of the corporation. If you vote Democrat, you're a slave of the government. But you're still a slave. At the end of the day, you're still a slave, and you still have a master. So
where's the conversation? Where do we need to make the conversation go to? The conversation needs to go where? It needs to go to the point where people, the Patriots, need to understand that the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, I'm talking, forget the candidates for a second, just the parties themselves, look at the crap that they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When I have to, I mean, I have friends and everything that are members of the Republican and GOP, and they, we've had them on the show, and I got to tell you, when they have to go to a conference to learn about campaign finance reform and the laws and stuff, that tells you how corrupt it is. I mean, it should be, isn't it just common sense? Don't accept, give me the list of rules.
About abortion, but I'm just going to say that one word for a second, because abortion is an example of a topic that our government, that the two-party system knows is a political football that they can kick back and forth to keep the American citizens at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Okay? And that kind of crap needs to stop.
Yeah, and one of the reasons
campaign finance is never going to happen. I mean, you realize that.
I know.
With a
Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because that's how they make their wealth. They have
exactly.
I mean, that's how they become millionaires. They're not getting it off their salaries; they're getting it off of the.
That's how they become elected.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. But talking about abortion, tonight
I just knew it. I knew it as soon as I said that word.
No.
Jeff, I don't really want to talk about abortion. I heard your first segment.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, because we had audio problems. I don't know if you did or not.
No, I did. I heard the whole thing.
But one of the things I wanted,
Margaret Sanger.
I educated myself on that, and that's now my fight. I'm no longer going to talk to someone and say, "Well, this is right," or whatever, public funds or what. I'm going to say, "Oh, by the way, do you want to know that the person that created Planned Parenthood is a staunch racist who believes that the yellow and the black babies shouldn't be born?" Quote unquote. And I'm just going to walk away with that. I'm just going to say, I'm not even going to get into funding and all that. I'm just going to let you know that. I'm just going to let you know that. Have a nice day. Wish you the best of luck. Move on. And that's
absolutely.
But
what I'm saying, the reason I brought that up and the other thing was simply that there are people that are paid to decide and figure out how best to confuse the American people, and it works flawlessly every freaking election cycle. And they've already begun for this next election cycle. How is it possible that in the state of Virginia, the most open carry state in the Union, the most gun-friendly state in the Union, how did they elect a Democratic president? A Democratic governor who is going to spend his 4 years in office, because you're limited to one term in Virginia, who's going to spend the 4 years trying to strip you, the citizens of Virginia, of your right to open carry and to conceal carry.
Well, and
that's going to be his mission.
Well, exactly. And the thing is that tells you the stranglehold, and that tells you the sophistication of these machines, these political machines, that they were able to. You're absolutely right. I mean, and the guy, on top of that, and this is the thing that kills me about, and it goes right to, we talked about Hillary, and it tells you the power of these machines and the way that they're basically able to mine F you and the American people, because we all know that Hillary is a crook. We all know that she has broken laws. We all know that she doesn't give a damn about what happened in Benghazi. We all know that, she doesn't care how many American soldiers or how many American people are, they put up and they sacrifice on the behalf of their agenda. We all know that, but yet people, you're absolutely right, are still talking about her possibly being president of the United States. Go figure. Don't get it. Don't understand. Well, I get it. We're all basically being, look, you go to
Barack Obama. I mean, my gosh, 2008, the whole election. I mean, the guy was bad news, and all you had to do was just do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
But people have their eyes closed.
Yeah.
They don't really care.
And what's funny is that Mitt Romney got. Remember the thing? Well, the 43%. He got crucified for telling the truth. He told the truth, and they turned it, and that tells you how powerful, that tells you how media, how powerful they are, and how they've been, involved. I mean, I'm telling you, if you want to be a free patriot American, turn off your damn TV. Start right there. Turn off the TV right now, because I swear to God, as I sit here, and I don't know the science behind it, but I'm telling you, that is a direct connection to your neural network inside your brain, and that's how they're reprogramming you.
Well,
Turn off the TV.
Let's go ahead and let's forget Mitt Romney, because we're not at that point yet.
Yeah.
You ran a candidate. Well, actually, you had two candidates running for the primary in the Democrat. You had Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama.
Yep.
Well, they went into their little meeting and decided that it was his turn.
Yep.
Not his turn, but he's the candidate that this world economy, world government wanted.
Yep.
Okay. They put John McCain up against him.
Yeah.
John McCain couldn't. Oh my God.
Yeah. No,
John McCain, whatever.
I agree.
And then then you run this, and of course Mitt Romney's in there, and he's so John McCain has chosen to do that, and so then we come to round two, as if round one wasn't bad enough for people.
Yeah.
And then they just turned right around and did it again. But even still, only a third of the population voted.
Yeah. Yep. No,
I think he got a higher, he got something like, more like 54% to 46% or something like that. But still, so now we're coming into this next election in 2016. But what people need to understand is they can actually do some damage to the establishment in November this year by not electing congressmen and senators or governors or state legislators that have a D or an R next to their name.
Yeah. Well,
America, we have got to stop doing this.
You got to stop doing it. You got to do a little bit.
We can do that.
I agree to your point, but I think, believe it or not, I believe that the powers that be are smart enough that they are. If you notice in most news articles now, they don't tell you what political affiliation. I was reading about the former governor of Virginia, and they don't talk about that he was a Republican and he was on corruption charges. 14 counts of he's got 14 indictments.
Jeff, so let's reach out. You had some guy on the radio that called in before I got on. He's some sort of a radio show thing or something like that. Perhaps maybe the alternative media, maybe Glenn Beck, maybe Alex Jones, maybe you guys, remember we talked about this a month or two ago. Perhaps you guys get together and come up with a game plan, because I'm going to tell you right now, if we keep confusing the American patriots, all right, and keep giving them various informations from all different angles and all this other crap, come election day, they're not going to know what to do.
I honestly think this. we need to come up with, they had to contract with America, and I don't, didn't believe it because it was signed by Republicans, but I think we need to come up with a similar thing. This is your profession of faith, whatever you want to call it. Come up with that document and say, look, I'm not even going to talk to you until you sign this document. And part of that is this. If you violate your agreement, your contract with us, the voters, you will not be impeached. You will remove yourself from office. And get them, and you're going to find out really quick who is. I'm serious.
Right. They're not going to sign something.
They're not going to sign it.
But you don't understand what my point here is that the American people control that process. I mean, it seemingly seems like we don't.
Yeah.
But in all reality, we do.
But
American people stop being duped.
Yeah,
stop having the wool pulled over your eyes.
But this is the problem: is that people can get on here even on mainstream media. They can come up here and they can say, "Stone, I know you well enough to know that if there was such a document and it laid out basically, hey, look, this I don't have a crystal ball, but we lay out a document and we laid out your principles. I know for a fact you would sign it." So why wouldn't another candidate sign? Why don't we demand that? And why don't we come out and say, look, until you sign this document, I ain't going to believe a word you say.
But Jeff, again, I think you're missing my point, and maybe I'm not explaining it well enough for you, is that the two-party system in this country has brought this country to its knees. Has brought it to the brink of disappearing.
I'm with you, but then I guess my point back to you is the third party, because we have been duped by the first two. How do we know that the third party is not going to dupe us either, and not going to be part of the?
Well, I assume I get where you're coming from, and you know something, my friend, I don't think that you ever would know that.
Yeah,
but you know something, we do know what the Democrats and Republicans have done to us.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Scott Walker. He's a Republican, and I know you love him.
No, I don't.
But make him president of the United States.
Hold on. Let me back it up. I like what he has done for the state of Wisconsin, but I'll be the first one to tell you I don't like this affiliation with the Koch brothers. I don't like it at all, but I do like what he's done for the state of Wisconsin. I don't think that and that's my selfish nature. I like what he's done for me as a taxpayer. I'm getting money back from my state of Wisconsin, but I will tell you at what cost. I am concerned about that, and like I said, I don't know him well enough to know.
Let me compare myself, because I am a candidate. I have announced. You've seen the video.
Yep.
There, I put my birth certificate out there. I've done. The only thing that you can do.
Do you have LifeLock?
Talking about.
I got to ask Stone. Do you have LifeLock?
Do I have LifeLock?
Do you have LifeLock on your thing? You put your birth certificate. You better get LifeLock, my friend. You'll be in Russia before tomorrow. Before this show's over with, you're going to be purchasing something in Russia.
That's fine. But here's the thing, and I put it on there yesterday. I said even my DD-214 is out there.
Yeah.
You know what that is, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's got my Social Security number right at the top. There you go. Use it. The more people that have it, the more people can run. Get my name out there. Listen. All of our information is already out there, people. We've given up our privacy. We've given it away. All of our banking information. Jeff, for $5.95, I can find out everything about you.
I know. Oh, I know.
So,
I'll save you some money. Ask. I'll tell you.
Well, that's the thing. You don't need to spend the $5.95 to find out who I am. Number one, you can ask me, or number two, just there it is.
Yeah.
Do whatever it is you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point that I'm trying to make is what I'm saying to you today, what I've said to you 5 months ago, is the same thing I'll be saying to you a year from now.
Sure.
I'll be saying to you 2 years from now. And I'll be saying it on November 8th, 2016.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I don't doubt that one bit.
And that's, and I think what people need is they need something solid that they can bite into, that's tangible, that they can believe in.
Yeah.
People understand that when you support me, you're supporting yourself, because we're all in this together, and that's what I'm promoting.
Yeah.
When you go to the polls this November, I'm talking about for 2014,
yeah.
You're going to be presented with a list of candidates. And the only thing that I can say to the patriots of this nation is, you can't go wrong if you don't vote no Democrat or Republican.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Because
none of the above.
Democrats and Republicans have put us in this position that we're in.
Yeah.
We've got people that want to march on Washington and physically remove the President of the United States from the White House. They want to remove the Speaker of the House, physically want to do that. I mean, have you ever seen that in your lifetime? I certainly haven't.
Well, I can tell you, look, it's pie in the sky, because I can tell you, you and I talking, I physically would like to throw the guy right through the window at the White House.
I understand what we would like to do, but
we can't do that.
Though,
You're right.
Is that there's actual movements. There's people talking about it and saying, hey, we're going to do this on May 16th.
Yeah.
We're going to go to Washington, and we're going to stay there until this son of a bitch is either impeached or resigns.
Yeah.
I mean, in your lifetime, have you ever seen anything like this?
No.
So what I'm saying is, and like your constitutional lawyer that was on just before I was, and he was talking about, the War of 1812 and how the 13th Amendment was, is not the exact 13th Amendment, that was the actual 13th Amendment, that it was changed. We can sit here and talk about all of the problems and all of the issues and all the heartache and all the ills of this nation, but they come from two things: the two-party system in this country and the assholes that are in those parties. They just breed boneheads.
Yeah.
They're all millionaires, folks, and you're out here struggling.
Yeah.
Why would you continue to vote for them?
Yeah. No, I get you. I am with.
It's that simple, my brother.
I'm with you. I am on board. Where do I sign?
Well, I'm saying you're LaRouche Peg. They're not. I hope they're not supporting Republican and Democrat.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely not. They have their own candidates, and that's why we're having them on.
As soon as I get off with you tonight and tomorrow, I'm going to do some research on. I'm going to find out who these people are, and I'm going to make some phone calls.
Yeah.
And that's what I encourage people to do.
Yeah.
Like I said, Jeff, you're right. The media's gotten smart about this, and so has the two parties. They don't put their party affiliation next to their name anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's for two reasons. One is because even though it's a two-party system, it's really one party with two heads.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Let's change up the topic here. No, I want to. Did you not see Freedom Prepper, our good friends over at freedomprepper.com, Scott?
Yeah.
And his wife, did you not see the shirt that they made up?
I did. You talking about the suicide 22?
Yeah, the 22?
Yeah, actually, I even saw ads for it on Facebook.
I know. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. I need to get one of those.
Yeah. I need to lose some weight, or I need to make up my own.
They don't have a 5X?
I'm a 4XLT. Thank you.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm huge.
Were you just about to say you're solid?
I'm not solid anymore. I used to be. I'm more Jello. I'm more Jello than I am. I was. One thing that you learned, and it was funny because I used to go to the gym and did all the heavy weights and the bench pressing, and all my fitness buddies were like, that's all going to turn to fat if you don't do it the rest of your life. And what happens when you hit 40? Going to the gym and bench pressing, that weight is not. It's just not something that you want to do anymore. So, I'm
not the only
more
exercise
Jello.
I can do. I've got bad. Both my legs are bad. I walk as much as I possibly can, and for me, that's the only exercise that I need. And I try to do that.
I think I'm going to start swimming. Is my thing. I mean,
Do you have a pool?
We do. We actually have a very nice YMCA here.
Okay,
indoor pool, and they have the laps and all. I used to swim in college and all that. I loved swimming, and so I think I'm going to start swimming to get my joints down. Like I said, one of the problems was I was a power lifter. So I mean, me, squatting. I mean, we used to squat 700-800 pounds just for fun. And, like I said, is that you can't do that to your body, build up that mass, and then stop doing it. It's just, your body just kind of goes blah. So I'm going to get back in. I'm going to do something. I've got to do something.
Right.
I'm starting to feel the effects. Getting up in the morning is a little bit harder than it used to be. So So we're going to...
Then don't get up in the morning, get up at noon.
Unfortunately, my phone starts at 8 a.m. So it's amazing. You know, all you East Coast guys, you know, tend to want to call me. And, no, I hear you. It's, when you have to roll out of bed instead of jump out of bed, that's not a good thing.
Right.
So, yeah. But I will, you know, I was looking. I pulled out pictures of Sandy's father's Fat Boy, and which he still has, mind you, and I can still get it if I want it. But I think I'm gonna do the support vehicle. We got to find someone that can do like Wrap Your Ride or something of that nature. Do you know anybody that can do that? Because I want to get the RV here in the next couple months, and I want to
what do you mean?
We want to get the RV right.
Letter it up.
We want to letter it up.
Oh yeah. Right there even in your own town. You just look on the internet, you'll find a company that does that for sure.
Yeah, so we got to get it. We got to get it lettered.
Now, what does FB stand for? When you say Patriot FB, talk radio,
Freedom Brother.
What does the FB stand for?
Freedom Brother.
Okay. Just checking.
That's what I was told to say.
But I love it. I mean, are you going to get rid of the Midnight Patriot?
No, I mean, it was funny because my SEO guys, all of our search engine guys were saying that was the biggest mistake I could ever do. And let me tell you why. They said more links to more things bring more traffic to you. So they were saying what we need to do is, and I am looking, and I've had a couple people volunteer for Patriot. The problem with the Midnight Patriot is I just don't have time on top of everything else I'm doing to keep that up to date. But I've had a couple people who have volunteered that said, "Give me admin rights, and we will keep those up to date." Now, one of the things that we are doing, and you can't see it, but you can hear it, is that we have our show prep, and so we're going to start posting the show prep back up at the Midnight Patriot, and then of course we're going to link back to Patriot FB. So. You know, they were saying that we need, if you had 100 sites all linking back to Patriot FB, that helps in searching. But the other part of it too, I was thinking about it today, is that Patriot FB is kind of a gem. I mean, I was on Facebook. I logged into Facebook today to do the event announcement, and I literally had so many like posts that were coming through, because I think I got well over 3,000 friends or whatever, acquaintances, not friends, but people that have friended me. There were so many posts I couldn't read them. I couldn't keep up with them.
Right.
Well, Patriot FB is not like that. I mean, I actually I read every post that's posted on my wall, because they're not like blowing by at 100 miles an hour. So, you know, it's just it's great, but then again, I was like, man, as this thing grows, you know, are we going to run into the same issues that we run into Facebook, where everything gets kind of lost in the noise? And right now, our membership, I will tell you, I have yet to have to, I don't want to say ban, but to let someone know that, you know, that's an inappropriate. Everybody that's on Patriot FB has contributed and done a really great job of making sure that the content that's posted and the content that's up there is related to the Patriot movement. And that's,
well, I think if you allow your membership, which I think is a good idea, allow them to police themselves.
Yeah.
Trust me, they'll take care of them.
Yeah.
They'll take care of people that are troublemakers.
Oh, they are. I mean, I have a couple, you know, obviously you don't have to be out there long, but I have a couple guys that have my cell phone numbers, and they, you know, they'll say, hey, look, this guy, and it's more about, you know, posting in the wrong room, or, you know, posting you know, it's crazy. It's that Facebook mentality. And I tell these people when I talk to them, it's like, you don't have to do that here. We do read your thing. You don't have to post it in 4 different forums and across 5 different chat rooms, and, you know, just post it once. Trust me, people, all you're going to do is upset people. No one's going to read your stuff. If you post one post, you'll find that more people will read it. And that's exactly what, and they come back and they're like, yeah, you're right. And it's like, yeah, this is not Facebook. This is not, you don't have to broadcast. I mean, just post it one time, and you'll find that you'll get more. So that's typically the stuff that we run into. But right now it's just getting, we moved the studio home and everything and put it, got it here so I can spend more time with the family. And now, we're adding, I still got 3 shows I got to get up on the network where it's live feeds. I got Move On with Mac Worley. I got his show on Sunday. I've got Prepper Recon show. I've got another show that we're doing on Sunday. I've got a church. Check this out. Patriot FB. We're going to have a church service on Sunday where you can actually listen to a live Bible. I told him, I said, I don't want that, it's got to be a Bible church that preaches from the Bible. So you can go to Patriot FB and you can actually come Sunday. You can actually listen to you can go to church. You can, and you.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Well, let me suggest this.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of my, it's not a pet peeve, but one of the things that I'm trying to educate people on is that you have these rights that, our Creator gave to us, these unalienable rights.
Yeah.
I don't think most people really know what those are and how they affect you in your daily lives and what you can and cannot do.
Sure.
What would be kind of nice is if you had and I'm talking about from a law enforcement standpoint, if you could get maybe some sheriff or something involved in, in your show, and maybe he gave him an hour a week to, to take phone calls or to talk about particular subjects and this type of thing, because one of the things we're going to be faced with over the next couple of years, because let's face it, the collapse of our nation is hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
In other words, when that thread breaks, the whole thing's going to come crashing down. You know that, I know that. What happens at that point?
Yeah.
Who's going to be our friends? Who's going to be our foes?
Yeah.
And
I
think it would. What?
No, I agree. That's and that's why we're trying to get more legal. How do you say this? I'm not a fan of lawyers. Trust me. But I want constitutional lawyers. I want people who are non-practicing bar members. In other words, that they haven't drank the Kool-Aid yet, and I want to get them on as regulars and talk about these, legal issues. Like, what do I do this or what? I watched a documentary. You want to open up your eyes if you have. I don't know if it's on Netflix. I actually saw this on HBO. I was out there looking at documentaries, but they had a thing called Gideon's War. And they talked about the public defenders and the whole system, the public defense system, and then of course it was a critique on the legal system in general and the criminal legal system and how it's geared to incarcerate. Its objective is to incarcerate people, not to protect society, and it's just amazing. That opened my eyes up. So. I'm looking to get more lawyers on and more, and how do I say this? More people who are knowledgeable on the law but are not part of the machine, because I don't want to hear their propaganda. I want real honest critiques. I want someone to tell me. See, the problem that I have with law enforcement is how do you ask a law officer? All right, Mr. Officer, you guys are going to kick in my door to take my guns, and I'm going to be standing there.
No. What my position on the sheriff's department around the country, and basically because they are elected by the people and they take a constitutional oath to uphold the Constitution.
Yep.
I see them as a friend of the citizen as opposed to the enemy of the citizen.
Yeah.
Listen, my friend, when the poop hits the fan, we're gonna have to communitize ourselves. We're gonna have to get together on certain things. And I just this whole idea of, will the military shoot upon us and things like that. These are major conversations that, I guess we're not gonna know until we know, right?
Exactly. I like David Clark, Sheriff David. I would love to have him on the show. He is just.
Well, give him a call. Get him on the show.
I'd
rather hear from him than another lawyer.
I would love to have Sheriff David Clark on the phone. On the show because he, Joe Pale. I'd love to have him, Sheriff Joe. real sheriffs who have been elected, who serve the people, and who feel that the government is overreaching and feel that it, Sheriff Clark is in deep, I don't want to say deep water here in Milwaukee. He's the sheriff of Milwaukee County. He is a staunch supporter of Second Amendment rights. He is a huge you are responsible for your community guy. He is, he's anti.
So why is he in deep water?
He's in deep water because he's, Milwaukee County is a very heavy Democrat. We have a DA. There's a DA, and it's constantly on the local news here. He refuses to prosecute people on gun crimes, and I know that for a fact. I had a sheriff, a friend of mine, who's a sheriff in Racine County, and he actually had his personal car broken into, and when they broke into the car, they stole the handgun, and he was telling me, that his gun got stolen, so we had to do all the paperwork and fill out all the forms and everything. And so he was telling me a story about 3 months later, they arrest an individual, and come to find out the individual had had his handgun, had his gun in their possession, and he had he's a convicted felon, had this officer's handgun, and also had a felony charge of marijuana possession. Well, the DA, and this is typical in Milwaukee, this is typical across the United States, the DA plea bargained the gun charge, the felony gun charge, because the guy was a convicted felon, plea bargained that, used that, and said, look, you're going to accept the crime of felony possession of marijuana. If you do that and we don't go to trial, we will drop the felony gun charge, which automatically would have made him, a three-striker. And so, but we're not gonna allow that. And the only reason why we know this is because my buddy is a sheriff, and he was able to pull the case, and he was able to pull the legal stuff. And he's like, this is crazy. This guy broke into my house, or one of his friends broke into the car. He's a convicted felon. He got caught with my handgun, and they're not, and the DA's not going to charge him with a felony possession of a handgun. But instead he's going to charge him because he doesn't want to ruin his life. That's what the DA. I mean, we hear this all the time in Milwaukee, where this DA is, well, this young man made a mistake. It's like, well, no, he made a mistake with a handgun. I mean, I have friends who have made mistakes with marijuana or something like that, but they didn't have a handgun. He made
the first sentence in my position on the prison system. It says, our judicial system, prison system needs work. Lawyers are getting hardened criminals deals, and prosecutors are agreeing to those deals.
Yeah.
When I am president, taxpayers will not be paying for prisoners. Yeah. In other words, we don't just have a problem at the federal level. You realize that, right?
No, it's at the local level too.
It's at the state, it's at the local, it's at the community level. I mean, so trust me, when I say go to the polls, this year and the year after and the year after, people need to understand that if they stay home, then they're no better. They're part of the problem.
They are. They are part. Yep, they are part of the problem. I agree with you 100%.
And the district attorneys are elected also. Are they elected in the?
No, they're elected here. Well, they're elected here. But this is the thing, and that's why Gideon's Army was an eye opener for me. And I suspected it, but of course I had to see it on the mind machine there.
Right.
And the thing is that, and they clearly said, look, the system is geared. The judicial system is geared for plea bargaining. It is geared towards coming up with a plea bargain, because there's not enough time in the court system to try every case, and they said it would be jammed up. The problem is the rich who can afford to post their bond or their bail, or whatever, they know that. So what they do is that they go in and they refuse a plea, and they try to get a trial date, which typically would be 2 to 3 years out. And DAs at that point, because of everything, there's a lot of things that can happen. Evidence can go missing for whatever reason. Testimonies can change and everything of that nature. So it is to your advantage if you can say, let's go to trial. And then and try not to plea bargain. Where the criminal, the person that can't afford it's doing the public defender route and everything, their only option is sit their butt in jail, even if they're guilty or innocent, but sit their butt in jail because they don't have the money to post the bond or plea bargain out. And they had a young man who unfortunately, sat his butt in jail and for 8-9 months, he incarcerated, but he comes back not guilty. So he sat in jail for 8-9 months, lost everything and everything, and it comes back non-guilty because he didn't have the funds to post bail, because in the state in which the trial happened, there's minimum bail, and they just didn't have the money to post the bail. And it was an eye-opener on the whole. It's just not, it's not equitable. And I've always, with my naivety, I've always thought that the legal system was, the whole purpose of the legal system was to be equal, to have equity, but it's not.
Well, it's turned into a profession. It's turned into a moneymaker.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, let's face it, doctors, lawyers, some of the highest paid, professions in the world. So
my uncle is a fairly well-known lawyer, and he'll be the first one to tell you. I mean, I asked him, I said, how can you, he was a prosecuting attorney for years, and then he, went into private practice, and he defends, criminal cases now and stuff. And I'm like, how can you defend a child molester? How can you defend those types of cases? He goes, look, Jeff, he goes, that my job as a lawyer, and I think he actually gets it. That's why I can still sit at the dinner table with him in Thanksgiving or whatever. And I'm very proud of my uncle but he gets it. He says, look, my job is not to get you off. My job is to make sure you have a fair trial, that you're not taken advantage of, because the state and the federal government has unlimited resources to prosecute you. You don't. And so my job
I'm glad you said that, and I might have said it slightly different, and that is that it's kind of like in the military. You don't necessarily have to respect the man, you respect the rank.
Yeah, that's right.
So when you're defending, a criminal, you're defending the justice, the legal system. Yeah. You're defending it because Jeff Norton might be in that position at some point.
Yeah.
He definitely might be innocent. So, you want to protect the legal system that applies equally across, the board.
Yeah.
And their job is to trip up the prosecutors, and the prosecutor's job is to trip up them. I mean, that's the game.
Well, unfortunately, that is a game. But like I said, my uncle's response was, I think, the appropriate one is not, my job's not to get you off. That might be the end game, but my job's not to get you. My job is to make sure that your rights were protected through the process. And if the prosecution did something to violate your rights, they need to pay for that. And they need to, that our whole legal system, the premise of it is the burden of proof, relies on the prosecution, not on the defense. And the thing is that, if the prosecution has gotten ill gain from tripping the system or tricking the system, then they need to be punished for that. And that's, what a good defense attorney should do. So I was like, okay, I get it. Thank you.
And pass the mashed potatoes.
Yeah, pass the mashed potatoes, Mike. How you doing? No, I mean, he's a super guy. And what's really cool about he is now writing children's stories, which is awesome. I'm very proud of my uncle and the fact that he has made a name for himself in the legal profession, but has not sold his all lawyers sell their soul, but it's not really, he's a good guy. And, you only have to spend a few hours in the legal system to realize that it is just completely crap, in the United States. It is. It's who it's who, how much money do you have? He who has the money wins, typically. I mean, look at these guys who have committed heinous financial crimes, and they get slapped. You got Murdoch, and the only reason why he went to prison for as long as he did is because he ripped off the wrong people. But if he would have ripped you and I off, he would, he'd be sitting on his island retreat. I mean, look at Well, I mean, seriously. I mean, look at these guys, these bankers who have ripped off, tens of millions of dollars from investors and stuff, and they're not being prosecuted. But that's because it's you and I. If it was a politician or a named actor or a whatever, then they definitely. It's just so. The moral of the story is don't rip off famous people or rich people. Rip off poor people, and it's okay.
Well, Bernie Madoff. I mean, look at he certainly didn't make any friends.
Yeah.
With what he did.
Well,
they went after him.
He didn't make it. Everybody loved him right up to the time he got caught.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And that's the thing is that there were people that tells you how corrupt the whole system is. I mean, there were people who all along were saying Bernie Madoff is what he's doing is illegal. There was a Wall Street reporter who was writing about it the whole time, but everybody refused to do it. Bernie Madoff would have still made it if his sons didn't turn him in. And the only reason why I'm a firm believer, the reason why his sons didn't turn him in, because they didn't want to go to prison for their dad. Because they were part of it too. So they did a plea. They plead themselves, out of and turned on their father. They talk about great Thanksgiving.
You think he's really dead?
Bernie Madoff? He's alive.
Huh?
No, Bernie Madoff is alive. He's in prison. Did he die?
Oh, yeah. He died before they went to trial.
No, you're talking about, that's the guy from Enron, Lay.
I thought Bernie Madoff died also.
No, Bernie Madoff is alive. Well, hold on. Let me educate me here. No, Bernie Madoff is still alive. You're talking about Ken Lay, who died. That was Enron. I think he's still alive.
Oh, okay.
That's Ken Lay of Enron. I think he's still they said he had a heart attack or whatever. Who knows? Who cares?
Oh yeah, he is still alive. Okay.
Yeah, Bernie Madoff is sitting in Fed.
Yeah, that's right. Ken Lay. He died before, and so his wife didn't lose anything. She got to keep all the money.
Because they dropped the prosecution.
Right.
And he probably did that. Yeah, because they don't prosecute a dead man. That's
right. Then they couldn't take away his assets, which obviously all of her ill-gotten gains and everything. But you're right though. I mean, if you've got buku bucks, you can pretty much get off.
Well, Chow, who's the one that headed up. We're talking about Enron. Chow, the one that headed up the whole thing, he dropped out like 2 or 3 months before it all fell apart. They couldn't prosecute him either, and he walked away with almost $1 billion. And he was the one that orchestrated a lot of the deals. But because he left when he left, he was smart enough to walk out. When he did,
That's right all on him.
Yeah, well, it's just whatever. But like I said, you can do these crimes, but the minute you rip off a politician or you rip off a celebrity or whatever, you'll be in trouble. This is really bad. I was sitting at a dinner table with having lunch with a good friend of mine, and we were in Northbrook, Illinois, at this place called Burger Joint, upscale burger joint, and we're sitting there having dinner, and I can't remember he was the guy that prosecuted the governor of Illinois. Well-known federal prosecutor. But regardless, I'm sitting there with one of my friends eating dinner and another friend, and my other friend gets a phone call, and apparently they invested. The prosecutor invested in my other buddy's business along with some other high-end politicians. It was a Medicare, Medicaid fraud detection system. And so, naturally, they were all part of it. And the company went south. I mean, it didn't pan out the way it should have. And so they were in the process of wrapping the company up, or I don't know if they were declaring bankruptcy, but they were wrapping it up. But, it was my friend's business. But we're sitting there at the dinner table, and the prosecution's going on with the governor of Illinois at the same time. And this guy is prosecuted. I got to pull it. Fitzgerald is the prosecutor, federal prosecutor, Fitzgerald. So he's prosecuting ex-governor of Illinois, and he calls my buddy. we're sitting there, and my friend takes the call during lunch, and they're talking, and he's like, "Yeah, we're going to shut it down," and everything like that, and he's giving them the bad news, and he hangs up the phone. And my Jim, my other friend, is like, "Who was that?" And he said, "Well, that's Fitzgerald, and he's not too happy that the business is folding. He's going to lose his investment for obvious reasons, right?" And my buddy Jim, with his keen business mind and his sense of legality, goes, "That might be the person that you need to pay back." And my other buddy was like, "Well, no, I mean, we're just going to declare bankruptcy." He goes, and Jim goes, "Let me kind of explain something to you. The guy is prosecuting the former governor of the state of Illinois, Fitzgerald, and he's a highly respected federal prosecuting attorney. And he calls you during that trial to basically ask you how you're going to repay his money back to him." And it was funny because my other friend was sitting there going, "Well, I don't understand what you're getting." He goes, "Okay, Jim once again said, let me explain this to you one more time. The guy is prosecuting a huge case a huge United States case. He's prosecuting an attorney, a former governor of the state of Illinois. And he is calling you because he's more concerned about how you're going to pay him back his money that he invested in your company than he is about prosecuting this case. Think about it." And so my other buddy is like, he goes, "I'm screwed, ain't I?" And Jim was like, "Yeah, you're screwed. You better find a way of giving this guy his money back, or you're going to go to prison for a long time." And sure, of course, I don't know what transpired, but my other buddy's now in Israel. So he left the country. I don't know where he's at. And it's I haven't heard from him in years. And everything, but you're absolutely correct. I mean, if you're rich and you're part of the power machine and stuff, they'll protect each other. But when you're you and I, Joe Schmo, they throw us to the wolves.
I mean, you can apply that same reasoning to the fact that nearly 100 million Americans are unemployed or underemployed, or and this type of thing. But yet, the legal folks are doing well, the doctors and.
Well, I don't know though. Did you hear the report? 37% of Wall Street analysts are without jobs.
No, that's great.
Yeah, there's less people to screw up. Well, we knew that was coming, so
right.
As they built efficiencies in the market. So, well, Mr. Anthony, is there anything you want to share with the audience other than what we've already talked about?
That's pretty much it, my friend. Just, keep your eye on the ball, people, and, just can't say it enough.
StoneAnthony2016.com. Get out there. Sign the petition. How are you guys doing on the petitions?
Doing good. It's rising. We're sitting at about 100 a week. That seems to be the magic number.
Sure.
So, but we need 1 million of them. So we need about 1,000 weeks. We'll get there.
Yeah. I think once we get out there with the clipboards, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get the I'm going to start walking with I'm going to get a job as a navigator for Obamacare. But when I go to door, as they're giving me the voter registration cards to get, the sign up, of course, I'm gonna have them sign the petition. They won't know. It's like Breitbart. They have no idea. I'm just gonna go out there and have them sign stuff.
Just sign here.
Yeah. Did you not know that? What was it? I saw the one where Penn and Teller had people signing the water. They actually were giving the chemical compound to water, and they're saying, this is deadly. If you drink too much of this, it will kill you, and we need to ban it. And people were signing it.
Right.
And it's just.
Well, I would stress, stop drinking the water, people. The Kool-Aid is not good for you right now.
Not good. I agree.
I mean, just stay focused. Stay focused on what's important, and what you can change is what's available to you.
Yeah.
The Constitution is still alive and well as long as you believe in it.
Absolutely.
What they're trying to do is, make folks not believing it anymore by telling you that it's, what do they call it? Our founding fathers are terrorists. And,
yeah.
You know, the Bill of Rights is no longer
applicable,
useful, or obsolete.
Yep. I know.
Barack Obama says, "Hey, people don't like me because they're racist."
Yeah.
You know, and
but
the Muslim Brotherhood can come into America and they're not, they're not terrorists.
They're not terrorists. They're not even patted down. TSA. We don't want to offend. We don't want to offend the Muslim Brotherhood, which, by the way, has been named terrorist groups. But we don't want to offend them, so we don't pat them down. We want to honor the Sharia law, so we're not going to strip search. People.
Whatever. Again, it's just all insanity, people. I mean, when the people that didn't vote for Barack Obama, can be called whatever you want to call them, but it's the people that did vote for him that are no longer supporting him. He's calling them racist now.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't racist when they voted for him to begin with.
Yeah.
But now they're racist because they don't support him. I think the guy's probably going to put a bullet in his head before it's all said and done.
I don't know, but I think that Michelle will probably strangle him.
Well, if he keeps flirting with them other women, she sure will.
Yeah, you don't.
I mean, she looks angry in those pictures. I mean, we've all been married and we've all done stupid things, and we've made our wives angry. But when she looks at him with that disdain, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I can care less what happens in their personal lives. I mean, I am upset the fact, and this tells you where my mind is. I'm upset that when the plane leaves and her butt's not on it, and we got to send another plane to pick her up for the tune of $117,000. I have an issue with that. We
got to move the Queen around.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, we the people bought your plane ticket. Your butt better be on that plane because we're not buying you another one. But apparently they feel that they do. I mean, it was $1.7 million. Her stay in Hawaii cost the American taxpayer an additional $1.7 million and stuff. And then they had the party at the White House, and
well, this goes back to what we were talking about originally in the show, which is if folks continue, to elect these people, then you get what you deserve. Yeah. And if you don't participate in the process, complaining after the fact is not really.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's at,
I agree. I agree. If you didn't vote, you have no right to complain. Keep your mouth shut.
Right, but there is no candidate out there that's got a plan like mine that has a chance of working, and a plan to make sure that our constitutional rights on Election Day are protected.
Yeah.
The people need to be paying attention, and I think that those that are, I want to let them know that I appreciate it. Let's keep up the good work that's going on, because it's it's spreading pretty well.
Yeah.
And good luck with that LaRouche PAC thing. I think, like I said, I'll do some research on that and see if there's some candidates I can't get behind for some of these congressional and senatorial races. But if you wouldn't mind repeating, a little bit of what we talked about tonight. I mean, if Democrats, Republicans are something you're considering, then I think you're part of the problem and not part of the solution. So.
Yeah. No, I mean,
this country wasn't designed for a two-party system. I don't know where it came from, who designed it, obviously I know, but, it does not serve the American people very well, and it's obvious.
Yeah. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one. It's just...
Anyway. All right, brother. Well, if everybody could go to StoneAnthony2016.com, take a look at what we got going on. I think you'll enjoy it. And, this thing hasn't even begun yet. The real fights are going to begin here in the next few months as far as the congressional races and the midterms and this type of thing. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No,
I know you'll be on top of it. So, all right, brother. I will let you go, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, my friend. Take care of yourself.
All right, man.
Bye now. Bye. Mr. Stone Anthony, presidential candidate 2016. Get out to his website. I highly recommend, this is not a gentleman who's sitting around talking about it. He's actually doing it. Great video of him standing on the foots of the Lincoln Memorial reading the Constitution, and as he announced his candidacy for the 2016 election, we highly recommend. That's why we have him on show. It's a guy that gets it. It's a guy, obviously, from the conversations you heard here. It's a guy who we all can relate to, and I will give you a little insight. When you call his phone, the number that's listed, you will talk to Mr. Stone Anthony. You're not going to talk to some call center. You're going to talk to the man himself. So, get out there. Learn about his platform. Like I said, I don't think he would have a problem if we put together an agreement with, if he was elected president of the United States. This is the agreement. He would not have. I know Stone well enough to know. He would not have a problem one bit signing that agreement and honoring it, more importantly. Honoring that agreement. I am a firm believer of that, and I would not have him on the show unless I believed what he was telling us and everything. So with that, we're getting a little long in the tooth, as they would say here at the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. What we're going to do is, I kind of messed up. Again, I didn't take our breaks like we were supposed to. So what I want to do is we'll just kind of march on in and maybe get out of here a little bit earlier ahead of schedule. Unless you want to join the conversation, give us a call at 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. Would love to have you. Love to talk to you as we wind down. Now, one of the things that we were talking about, I don't know if you guys caught that, we were talking about shirts. If you go out to freedomprepper.com, that is freedomprepper.com, there's a set of shirts out there for 22. It's for it's kind of our way of bringing to the forefront an issue in America that is a travesty. It is a stain upon our fabric as a nation, and that issue is that every day in America, 22 men and women choose to end their lives because of the pain of whatever. That's 22 soldiers, men and women, soldiers, who choose to end their lives. And that is 22 too many. That's 22 in a day, 22 in a week, 22 in a month, year, century, decade. That is decade, century. That's 22 too many. And we as a nation can no longer sit idly by and watch this. Especially, in the fact that on average, another number I'm going to give you, which is a disgrace. A soldier who has served their country, who has honored their agreements and their commitments to the nation in which they serve and the nation in which they put on a uniform. If they have to receive medical treatment or whatever through the VA, through, outside of the military, it takes on average 354 days for that soldier to receive that medical treatment. 354 days. Now, what is disgusting, that's a disgusting number. What is even more disgusting is the fact that a person who makes, because of social or because of a bad decision, a choice, they chose to act in such a way that was not responsible, can walk into a social service office and within 30 days get health care, housing, and food. But yet a soldier of this great nation has to wait 354 days. That's another number that's disgusting. And because of that number, the 22 a day, the 22 men and women that we put to rest, the sons and daughters of this country, has also become unacceptable. And I want to let you know the best way, get out there. If you want to take on a fight and you only have one that you can do, that's the fight I want you to take on. That's the fight I want you, the American patriot, to take on. Get out there and fight for our veterans. Let our government know, let our administration know that this is unacceptable. And we need to be better stewards of our young men and women soldiers. Get involved. One of the ways that you can get involved is make people aware. And go out to freedomprepper.com. They have these shirts. They're great designs. I love them. Get one of those shirts. Put it on. They're going to ask you, what 22? What does that mean? Tell them. It's a remembrance of the soldiers that committed suicide today. All of the proceeds that were done for those shirts go to benefit the veterans. I know Scott very well. I know that he's committed to this project and everything. So get out there, get your shirt today. Buy your shirt today. Wear it. Get the word out. Get the word out. Now with that, we'll close the show. Like I said, we're getting a little long in the tooth here. So we'll close the show honoring the men and women who have served this country with honor and distinction and who have paid the ultimate price. Army Specialist Andrew H. Sipple, January 17, 2014. Army Chief Warrant Officer Andrew L. McAdams, January 10, 2014. Army Sergeant Drew M. Scobie, January 10, 2014. Army Sergeant First Class William K. Lacey, January 4th, 2014. Marine Sergeant Jacob M. Hess, January 1st, 2014. They fight and died for our freedom. No one had to ask them to go without a moment's hesitation. For the red, white, and blue. So just for 1 second, put yourself in their boots. Turn your back on everything you know right now. With the whole world to lose, you got no dinner with the family. You got no home, no luxury, it's just a welcome to the battlefield. 'Cause it's time to go to war. Because they do it for me and they do it for you. In the red, white, and blue. Amen to the ones on the battlefield. Amen to those who You're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us live every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time, or on the web at www.patriotfb.com. That's www.patriotfb.com. A little house cleaning information for you and stuff. All music here that we play on the show is provided to us by Madison Rising. Get out to their website, madisonrising.com. That is madisonrising.com. The other thing I want to point out to you is that we are putting together just an incredible stable of podcasts and other radio personalities. We're going to be adding a few more, and I apologize. We're trying to get all the technology down. There's a lot of moving parts here to do these feeds, and it's not like we have unlimited resources. So just bear with us. But some of the podcasts that you can listen to live here at Patriot FB is at 8 a.m. every morning. We have AVN Mike, American Voices Now Network. He starts from 8 until 10. This is Central Standard Time. Then we have JJ McCarty, which runs from the 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock hour. And, of course, then you can join me as I wrap up the evening from 9 to 12 at the Midnight Patriot. We will be adding some other shows on the weekends. We're going to be adding some church services. Oh, that's kind of cool. And so you can get you can get a little religion here as well, which we all need. You can never have a little religion. We need a lot more. And so we'll have those on Sundays, and then we'll be adding some other shows. We are trying to get Mac Worley on the Move show up and running here Sunday nights at 7. Just trying to overcome some technical issues as far as the feed. He's on a different service than the rest of us use, so we're trying to work through that. And I'll tell you, the company he uses is not being too forthcoming. So, but we'll get it. We'll eventually get it nailed down, and we'll get everything worked out here at the Midnight Patriot, and get these things automated and get Command Central up and running, and everything. So if you would like to participate or like to help the efforts that we're doing here at the Midnight Patriot, give me a shout, give me an email, Jeff@themidnightpatriot.com. That's Jeff@themidnightpatriot.com. We need people to help us with stories, aggregating news, updating websites, all of that information. All of that, we can use your help. And one of the things I'll tell you, this is a community. We're building a community. We also need webmasters, people to kind of monitor their sites as we grow and everything, to keep the yahoos and the trolls off the system. So with that, I just want to say thank you. I know it's the last 2 nights have been kind of brutal as we're working through our issues. We're getting better. We are, believe it or not. We're making headway. And everything. I mean, I didn't have $640-something million to launch this. I promise you, we'll get it up and running within the week, and everything will be back to the way it was prior to us adding the new systems and the new servers and stuff. So, with that, I just want to say, may God bless you. You guys will always be in my family's hearts and our prayers. We thank you for everything that you've done for us. Help get the word out, and we got to keep marching on. And the best way to do that is go to patriotfb.com. Send your friends to patriotfb.com. Let them know that there is a site out there dedicated to the American Patriot and the American spirit. Now, the other thing too is also support our radio show. I know a lot of you guys during work, we're on port 80, which means it's not firewalled. That's good news, right? It's not firewall. So we play classic country, classic rock, and then modern, the top 40 or whatever of modern country when we're not doing the show. So get out there, show your support for us. Let your friends know about us. If there's anything that we can do, let us know, of course. Always shoot me an email, Jeff@themidnightpatriot.com. That's Jeff@themidnightpatriot.com. Let us know, share with us. I mean, we're self-funded, and the way that we do this is by contributions, by donations. We don't have any advertising revenues just yet. We will be adding those here shortly, but even then, it still won't cover. Just the amount of money that we pay every month to provide to you the music feeds and the live shows and everything is more than even in our current budget. Even if we were selling advertising with our listenership and stuff, we still wouldn't. It would still have to be done. But I'm not PBS. I'm not going to go and ask you for money. I'm not going to, do a pledge drive or a money bomb or anything like that. It is what it is. If God wants us to continue, he'll provide for us, and he'll do that through you and everything. But if there's anything we can do for you, anything we can do to make the show better, anything we can do to make the website better, please let us know. If there's a cause or a community event you want us to promote, even another show, another website, please, reach out to us. Let us know. Best way to do that is send me an email, jeff@themidnightpatriot.com, or you can actually log into patriotfb.com and shoot me a message directly, and I'll get back to you within a day and everything. But like I said, may God bless you. May God keep you safe, and you will definitely be in our hearts and prayers. Until we talk again, my fellow patriot, good night.
Hey everybody, JJ McCartney here. You can catch me every weekday from 3 to 5 p.m. at patriotfb.com/